Hello, good morning everybody. This is Mukherjee from St. Peter's Engineering College. Today is the revision class regarding the Unit 1 of the Applied Physics, where the Unit 1 is quantum mechanics or quantum physics. So quantum physics and quantum mechanics we also called as the modern physics. Now what is that we are going to study? According to the syllabus that is prescribed, we are going to study about blackbody radiation, Planck's theory, and deduction of Wien's displacement law and Rayleigh-Jeans law from Planck's theory, then Compton effect and what is its theory and its experimental verification, followed by the G.P. Thomson experiment, and then we have Schrödinger's wave equation, of course, time independent form, and then the physical significance of Schrödinger's wave equation, and then particle in one dimension box, one of the application of Schrödinger's wave equation. So now this is the syllabus. From this syllabus, what is that we are going to understand the objectives. What is the principle of blackbody radiation? How energy distribution is happening in blackbody radiation? And what is Planck's law? How do you derive the Planck's law using particle and wave nature? What is de Broglie's relations? And then what are the general properties of matter waves? And we try to explain the evidence of matter waves, followed by Schrödinger's wave equation and the particle in one dimension box and its importance, and finally some applications. So now let us go to the origin of quantum mechanics. First of all, if we want to define the universe, a simple universe can be defined as universe is made up of simple matter and energy. Once again, matter is classified into solids, liquids and gases, and further we have several divisions of these things. To understand this matter as well as energy, there are two types of physics which is mostly followed. One is the classical physics, the other one is the modern physics. And classical physics is mostly based on the Newtonian mechanics. We call it as regular old classical physics. And then the modern physics is something related to the quantum principles. Now this Newtonian physics, in relation to special relativity, we got this quantum physics. Why? Because we are dealing the quantum mechanics at atomic and subatomic levels. In a normal macro level, probably Newton mechanics is trying to explain a whole lot of theories, whole lot of applications. But when we are cutting down to the atomic level and subatomic level, Newtonian physics or classical physics is not in a position to explain the relative properties of the matter. For that we required a new theory, and that theory we call it as quantum physics. So this Newtonian mechanics taking to the basics, when things get small we go for quantum physics. If these smaller things, if they are faster, we call it as quantum field theory. And when these things are faster, irrespective of the small, we call it as special relativity. So now we need to know why quantum physics. Because classical mechanics as well as Newtonian mechanics, including the equations of electromagnetics are given by the electromagnetic theory, the macroscopic phenomena was explained very comfortably. Something related to the billiard balls, to the rockets. But quantum mechanics is mostly used in microscopic, atomic level and subatomic level. That is something related to photon atomic scattering and the flow of electrons in semiconductor, and how the conductors, semiconductors and insulators are classified, and what is its behavior at the microscopic level, and what is its behavioral change of microscopic level at the macro level. So for these things we require quantum mechanics, not classical mechanics. So we are going to take two cases. One is not localized, the other one is localized. Now what is non-localized? Not localized in the sense we can't localize. We can't localize in the sense we can't identify its positions. And what is localized? We can identify the positions. In classical physics, there is no such case of localization and non-localization, because in classical mechanics it doesn't deal with the matter as well as its velocity at the same time. So now coming back to the content, the blackbody radiation, the Planck's theory and deduction of Planck's theory, including the Wien's displacement and Rayleigh-Jeans law. So first of all, what is a blackbody? Now why should we read about a blackbody radiation? The equation is very simple. First of all, what is a blackbody? Blackbody is an imaginary body which can absorb 100% amount of energy, which can absolutely absorb 100% of energy that is falling on it. we call it as black body. Of course, it's an imaginary body. And how exactly it is prepared? Of course, it is not prepared, but to a large extent, we have prepared a black body with a small spherical body, a small cavity for that, and in that small cavity you have a small hole which is drilled into it, so that whatever radiation is entering into the hole is getting internally reflected in the complete body. So it absorbs completely, it completely absorbs the whole energy. That is what the concept of black body is. Similarly, when it is heated, it emits the whole energy whatever it has absorbed, or it emits more radiations from a unit area than the whole of a given temperature. So what is a black body? Is a perfect absorber, is a perfect emitter. This is what a black body is. But now the black body, how exactly it is going to vary with respect to wavelength is what the concept is. Why wavelength? Because in classical mechanics it is understood or it is believed that the energy is a function of wavelength. Now what is wavelength? The length of a wave. The length of a wave in the sense from crust to crust or a trough to trough. The length of the wave of a crust to crust or a trough to trough, or the length of a wave consisting of one trough and a one crust. So it is a perfect function of wavelength. When black body is at a higher temperature, then the emission should be more than the absorption. This is what the black body radiation is. And this heat radiation emission at higher temperatures, we call it as the black body radiation. So this is the diagram of the black body radiation. So let us see the diagram here. This is the diagram with respect to the wavelength and intensity. So now what is happening? As the wavelength is getting increased, the wavelength is going to absorb much energy and intensity is also getting increased. So we have plotted a graph between wavelength and intensity at different temperatures. Implies that we are maintaining a constant temperature, and at constant temperature we are trying to increase the wavelength and corresponding intensities are measured. And now we have different graphs at different temperatures. At T equals to 3000 Kelvin, T equals to 4000 Kelvin, T equals to 5000 Kelvin, T equals to 6000 Kelvin. We have different fixed temperatures. Wavelength is increased and intensity is also correspondingly increased. And the formula is exactly given by E of lambda T equals to 2 pi hc square by lambda by pi into 1 by exponential of hc by lambda kt minus 1. But we have a problem. What is the problem? This distribution of the energy with respect to wavelength at fixed temperatures is done according to the classical mechanics. And what is the problem? The peaks. The peak at T equals to 3000 Kelvin, P at T equals to 4000 Kelvin, peak at T equals to 5000 Kelvin, P at T equals to 6000 Kelvin, they are moving from infrared to visible region. As the wavelength is getting increased, the peaks are moving towards the left direction. They are moving from infrared to visible range, where the wavelength is moving from visible range to infrared, which actually is not explained properly according to classical mechanics. Because classical mechanics says that higher is the temperature or higher is the wavelength, higher is the energy absorbed. But now what is happening? As the wavelength is increased, the energy should be increased. But in this case, what is happening? The peaks are getting moved towards the left point, which the classical mechanics couldn't explain. And for that reason, we required the black body radiations, we required a theory, and that is exactly given by three different laws: Stefan-Boltzmann law, Wien's displacement law, Rayleigh-Jeans law. So this graph was actually represented with respect to, or with understood with respect to, the classical mechanics. But this classical mechanics couldn't give the proper explanation of moving of the peaks towards the left axis. So then we have a Stefan-Boltzmann law. So Stefan-Boltzmann law says that the total energy emitted at any particular temperature is directly proportional to fourth power of absolute temperature, or T proportional to T power 4. And this is explaining the middle part of the graph. This theory was comfortably explaining how the energy transaction is happening at the middle range. Now Wien's displacement law, the product of wavelength and the corresponding temperature is always a constant. And this theory was explaining at the lower parts of the wavelength. This couldn't explain the middle part of the wavelength, but this was explaining the lower part of the wavelength. And then Rayleigh-Jeans law. The energy distribution is always proportional to the absolute temperature and inversely proportional to fifth power of the wavelength. And this Rayleigh-Jeans law was explaining comfortably about the black body distribution but at higher temperatures. So Wien's displacement law was explaining about lower temperatures, Rayleigh at higher temperatures, and Stefan Boltzmann in the middle. And none of them could explain the intensity of the black body radiation distribution comfortably from lower temperatures to middle temperatures to high temperatures. And therefore we required a new theory to explain whole properties. And that is what the Planck's theory is. So Planck's theory, what does this Planck's theory says? The Planck's theory says that energy is released in the form of packets. Earlier energy was continuous and in the form of wavelength. But here it is discrete, not discontinuous, discrete. And it is in the form of packets. And these packets are represented by yellow colored circles. And these yellow colored circles, we call it as packet, quanta packet. And what does it contain? Photon, energy, momentum, as well as mass. So this carries photon, this carries momentum, and this also carries the mass. So now Planck's quantum theory of black body radiation, what does it say? It says that a black body contains a large number of oscillating particles, and each particle is vibrating with a characteristic frequency. So now Planck's theory has changed the classical mechanics dependency on wavelength. So Planck's theory says that the energy is now a function of frequency now. And the frequency of the radiation emitted by the oscillator is same as the oscillator frequency, which implies that the oscillator is having some frequency and that frequency is released or emitted when it is in oscillations. And this oscillation can absorb energy or emit energy in multiples of small units. We call it as photon. And that photon is what we are represented in the yellow colored circles. And the energy of photon is directly proportional to frequency of radiation, which implies that E equals to h nu. That is a fundamental famous equation. So E equals to h nu. So now this E equals to h nu is now applied to the black body radiation, and see how exactly it is derived. The energy density of radiations emitted by the black body temperature is given by E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi hc by lambda into exponential of hc by lambda kt minus 1 into d lambda, where h is the lowest Planck's constant or lowest value or lowest constant represented by Planck's constant. Value is about 6.6 into 10 power minus 34 joule seconds inverse. And C, of course, the velocity of light 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second. K, the Boltzmann constant. Whenever the temperature is involved, we always include the Boltzmann constant 1.38 into 10 power minus 23 joule per Kelvin, and T is the absolute temperature, of course, in Kelvin. So now let us derive the Planck's law. Let us take the average energy oscillator is given by E bar equals to capital E by N, where E is the total energy of the oscillators and N is the total number of oscillators. So E bar is the average energy of the oscillators. If we have 100 oscillators and if N is the energy of those oscillators, so the average energy of each lot is given by 100 by N. Here E is taken as the total energy, so it is E by N. So let the number of oscillators in the ground state is N0. According to Maxwell distribution, Nn is given by N0 into exponential of minus En by kt, where N, small n, represents the levels. Capital N represents the number of the oscillations at small n. N0 is the basic oscillators in the ground state. En is the energy and the end state. K is the Boltzmann constant. T is the temperature. So now let N1 be the oscillators having energy E1, N2 be the oscillators having energy E2, so on, such that capital N equals N0 plus N1 plus N2 plus so on, or N equals to N0 plus N0 into exponential of minus E1 by kt plus N0 into exponential of minus E2 by kt plus so on. But now what is En? Here En represents the energy in the nth state, which is given by En equals to small n into h into nu, where n is a perfect integer with 0, 1, 2 and 3, so that N1 equals to 1 h nu, N2 equals to 2 h nu, and so on and so forth. So E0 equals to 0, E1 equals to h nu, E2 equals to 2 h nu, E3 equals to 3 h nu. So N equals to N0 plus N0 into exponential of minus h nu by kt plus N0 into exponential of minus 2 h nu by kt plus so on, where we can take out N0 as a common thing. Let us assume that e power minus h nu by kt has some x. So we can write N equals N0 into N0 plus N0 x plus N0 x square plus N0 x cube plus so on. Or N equals to, let us take N0 as a common, we get 1 plus x square plus x cube so on. And this is represented by N equals N0 by 1 minus x, because 1 plus x square plus x cube is the expansion of 1 by 1 minus x using the binomial expression. Now what is E? E is given by E0 N0 plus E1 N1 plus E2 N2 plus E3 N3 plus so on. So E equals to 0 into N naught plus H nu N naught into exponential of minus H nu by kt plus 2 H nu N naught into exponential of minus 2 H nu by kt plus 3 H nu N naught into exponential of minus 3 H nu by kt plus so on, where N naught into exponential of minus H nu by kt corresponds to, of course, E1. Then 2 N naught into exponential of minus H nu by kt represents to E2, and so on and so forth. So this can be written as E equals to H nu N naught into exponential of minus H nu by kt plus 2 H naught N naught exponential minus 2 H nu by kt plus so on. Let us assume that x equals to e power minus H nu by kt. So this can be written as E equals to H nu N naught into x plus 2 H nu N naught x square plus so on. Let us take H nu N naught common, we get x plus 2x square plus so on. Or let us take out even x as a common, we get E equals to H nu N naught x into 1 plus 2x plus so on into plus, which is nothing but the expansion of 1 by 1 minus x whole square. So this is represented by E equals to N naught H nu x by 1 minus x square. So now the average energy is given by the energy per capital N. So H nu N naught x by 1 minus x square, 1 minus x whole square divided by N naught by 1 minus x. So 1 minus x and 1 minus x whole square, 1 minus x is going to get cancelled. We are left out with E bar equals to H nu x by 1 minus x, or E bar equals to H nu x by, let us take out x common in the denominator, we get 1 by x minus 1, or E bar equals to H nu by 1 minus x. Substituting the value of x, we get E bar equals to H nu by 1 by exponential of minus H nu by kt minus 1. When it is taken in the numerator format, we get E bar equals to H nu by exponential of H nu by kt minus 1. And here the number of oscillators per unit volume in the wavelength range, we are going to take a wavelength range because the black body radiation we have distributed, or we understood the distribution of energy with respect to a range of wavelengths. So the range of wavelength we are assuming as lambda and lambda plus d lambda, which is given by 8 pi d lambda by lambda power 4. So we get E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi d lambda by lambda power 4 into h nu by exponential of h nu by kt minus 1. Now we know that c equals to nu lambda, the velocity of light, or nu can be written as c by lambda. So we are going to substitute that value. We get E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi d lambda by lambda bar 4 into hc by lambda divided by exponential of h nu by kt minus 1, or E lambda d lambda equals to 8 by d lambda by lambda bar 5 into hc by exponential of h nu by kt minus 1, or E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi d lambda hc by lambda bar 5 into exponential of h nu by kt minus 1. So this is the distribution, black body distribution explained according to the Planck's principles or Planck's conditions. So now using this Planck's law, we try to understand the black body distribution. So what is that we have given? It is given as E lambda d lambda equals to 8 by hc by lambda bar 5 into exponential of h nu by kt, or hc by kt minus 1 into d lambda. So now let us derive the Wien's law. Now what is that Wien's law? Wien's law says that this Wien's law is applicable at lower temperatures, which says that lambda mt equals to constant. And therefore let us take hc by lambda kt, which is greater than 1 in the Planck's distribution law, which implies that exponential of hc by lambda kt is greater than 1. And therefore, neglecting 1 in the denominator, we get E lambda d lambda equals to 8 by hc by lambda power 5 into exponential of hc by lambda kt, as we have assumed, or we have neglected the 1. And this is something similar to the Wien's displacement law, lambda t equals to constant. Now Rayleigh-Jeans law. This Rayleigh-Jeans law is applicable at higher temperatures. So at higher temperatures, let us assume that hc by lambda kt is far less than 1 in the Planck body distribution law. So E per hc by lambda kt equals to 1 plus hc by lambda kt plus hc by lambda kt by 2 factorial whole square plus so on. We are neglecting the higher terms, we get 1 plus hc by lambda kt. So E lambda d lambda equals to 8 by hc by lambda power 5 into 1 plus hc by lambda kt minus 1. 1 and 1 get cancelled. So we are left out with 8 by hc by lambda power 5 into hc by lambda kt into d lambda. hc will get cancelled. We are left out with E lambda equals to 8 by kt by lambda power 4, which is for a higher or longer wavelengths. So this Planck's law for black body distribution is comfortably explaining the Wien's displacement law, which obeyed at low temperatures, is also explaining the Rayleigh-Jeans law, which is obeyed at higher temperatures. So that's the reason why Planck's law forms the basics of these quantum principles. So what are the advantages of Planck's theory? It explains beautifully the black body radiation distribution, lower wavelengths, higher wavelengths, and middle range of wavelengths. And it is used to deduce Wien's law as well as Rayleigh-Jeans law, and it introduces a new concept called energy is absorbed or emitted in discrete. According to classical, energy is continuous, but now it is discrete, and this is given by E equals to nh nu. So this is what as far as the basic Planck's law is concerned. So now let us take the Compton effect. Now before going to Compton effect, what is Compton effect? Why should we go Compton effect? Now we have derived the Planck's law, which says that energy is discrete and it is in the form of packets. So now we have two things. One thing is we have matter and we have wave. Earlier matter and wave were different. Now the matter and wave both are same. At times this matter wave behaves like a wave. At sometimes this wave behaves like a matter. And what are the conditions in which the matter wave behaves like a wave? Matter wave behaves like a matter is what the topic of discussion is. For that, let us understand first of all what is the Compton effect and its derivation and other things. So we know that X-rays, how X-rays are produced? When a high energy radiation is allowed to fall on a soft metal, some part of energy is absorbed and some of them is released. And that release we call it as X-ray. So we are going to take this X-rays as the basic source for our Compton effect. And these X-rays can be produced because of either coherent scattering or Thomson scattering, or incoherent scattering or Compton scattering. So what is the difference between coherent scattering and incoherent scattering? Coherent scattering, X-rays are scattered without any change in wavelength. So there is no change in the wavelength and they obey classical mechanics. They obey the electromagnetic theory. Now Compton scattering, it's an incoherent, implies that this scattering is going to produce two different wavelengths. And in these two different wavelengths, the most interesting part is one is having same wavelength as the incident beam, which generally not happens. One is having same wavelength as the incident beam and the other is having a slightly longer wavelength than the incident. We call that as a modified beam. So what is a Compton effect? A beam of monochromatic radiation of high frequency falls on a low atomic numbered substance. The beam is scattered into two components: modified radiation, unmodified radiation. Modified radiation will have a lower frequency than the incident frequency. Unmodified radiation will have same frequency as the incident frequency. And therefore what is happening? We have two radiations, modified radiation and unmodified radiation. And the change in this modified and modified radiation, we call it as the shift, called as Compton shift. Why? Because there is a change in the radiation and the difference is measured with respect to modified radiation and unmodified radiation. So the theory of Compton effect goes in this way. Compton treated the scattering as the interaction between X-ray and the matter. And this matter we assume that as smallest particle. So X-ray is coming and falling on a particle. Generally collision only happens between particles. And any waves, they interact, they interfere, but there is no collision between the waves. But here what is happening? A wave and a particle are used so that a collision is happening between them. And therefore what is happening? Some photons or photonic energy of that X-rays is loosely bound to the electron, which is in the matter. So now consider an X-ray photon of energy nu striking an electron at rest. And now this photon is scattered through an angle theta to x-axis. Let the frequency of this scattered photon be nu. Now during the collision, the photons gives energy to the electron and the electron moves with velocity v at an angle phi to an x-axis. So this is what the theory of Compton shift is. The diagram indicates that an incident photon or a wavelength or incident photon of energy is coming and falling on an electron which is at rest. And this is coming and falling on the electron which is at rest. So what is happening? We are getting two different types of distributions or disturbances. One disturbance is happening along the scattered photon which is moving at an angle theta with respect to x-axis, and the other one is recoil of electron which is happening or which is moving in the negative part of the x-axis. So we call this as collision. Why do we call it as collision? Because this incident photon is coming and interacting with the electron in something similar to the collision between the particles. Here photon is not a particle, but when this photon is coming and hitting the electron, the collision is behaving like particles. So here photon is behaving like a particle, implies that the wave is behaving like a matter or wave is behaving like a particle. So let us see the theory of Compton effect. Compton effect is something we have studied, and let us study how exactly is going to happen. So total energy before collision and total energy before collision of electron as well as photon. Let us consider that. As the photon is moving, let us assume that the energy of the incident photon is given by h nu. And because the electron is at rest, the energy of the electron at rest is given by m naught c square, where m naught is the rest mass of electron and c is the velocity of light. So the total energy is given by h nu plus m naught c square. And total energy after collision is given by h nu dash of a photon, and recoil electron is given by mc square, where m is the mass of an electron in motion. Therefore, the total energy after collision is given by h nu dash plus mc square. So total energy before collision equals to total energy after collision. So by the law of conservation of energy, total energy before collision equals to total energy after collision. h nu plus m naught c square equals to h nu plus mc square. Now, let us take the momentums of the photon as well as the electron before collision and after collision. So momentum of incident photon along the axis before collision is h nu by c, and momentum of electron because the electron is at rest, the momentum of electron is at rest. Total momentum before collision of the x-axis is given by h nu by c. Now momentum after collision is given by, because here after collision the electron is moving in the negative y-axis and photon is moving in the positive x-axis, so the momentum is resolved into x and y-axis. So momentum of scattered photon along the x-axis given by h nu dash by c cos theta, and momentum of the recoil electron along x-axis is given by mv cos phi. So the momentum after collision along the x-axis is given by h nu dash by c cos theta plus mv cos phi, which are the horizontal components. Now similarly, the vertical components. Even we need to find out the vertical components. So first let us add all the horizontal components. We get h nu by c equals to h nu dash by c cos theta plus mv cos phi, or bring all h by c terms to one side. We get h nu by c minus h nu dash by c cos theta equals to mv cos phi. Let us take c in the denominator as common and send to the right hand side. We get h nu minus h nu dash cos theta equals to mvc cos phi. Now let us take the vertical momentum. Initial momentum of photon before collision is 0, electron is 0, total momentum is 0. Now momentum of scattered photon is given by h nu dash by c sin theta, which is vertical. Momentum of recoil is given by minus mv sin phi, because this is moving opposite to the scattered photon. That's the reason why a negative sign. So the total momentum after collision in the vertical axis is given by h nu dash by c sin theta minus mv sin phi, and 0 equals to h nu dash by c sin theta minus mv sin phi, because momentum before collision equals to momentum after collision, where we get h nu dash sin theta equals to mvc sin phi. So now we are going to square the second equation as well as the third equation. The second equation is h nu minus h nu dash cos theta equals mvc cos phi, and the third equation is given by h nu dash sin theta equals mvc sin phi. Just square up, add up. We are going to get m square v square c square into cos square phi plus sin square phi equals to h square into nu minus nu dash cos theta whole square plus h square nu dash square sin square theta. Anyway, we know that cos square phi plus sin square phi is always equals to 1. We get m square v square c square. And the right hand side, we are going to open up the brackets. So h square into nu minus nu dash cos theta a minus b whole square, we are going to equate as a square minus 2b plus b square. So we are going to get h square into nu square minus 2 nu dash cos theta plus nu dash square cos square theta plus h square nu dash square sin square theta. Now just multiply h square to all the terms on the right hand side. We get h square nu dash square minus 2h square nu dash cos theta plus h square nu dash square into cos square theta plus sin square theta, or m square v square c square equals to h square nu square minus 2h square nu dash cos theta plus h square nu dash square. This is what? Equation 4. Now according to Einstein's equation, Einstein's mass energy relations, m square c power 4 equals to h into nu minus nu dash plus m naught c square whole square. This is the Einstein's energy velocity equivalence. So we are going to square it up. We get m square c power 4 equals to h square into nu minus nu dash square plus 2h into nu minus nu dash m naught c square plus m naught square c power 4. So m square c power 4 equals to h square into nu square minus 2 nu dash plus nu dash square plus 2h into nu minus nu dash into m naught c square plus m naught square c power 4. So this is equation 5 and this is equation 4. So now what is that we are going to do? We are going to subtract 5 from the 4. When we subtract, what is that we get? M square c power 4 minus m square v square c square, left hand side. Right hand side we are going to get h square into nu minus 2 nu dash plus nu square plus 2h into nu minus nu dash m naught c square plus m naught square c power 4 minus h square nu square plus 2h square nu dash cos theta minus h square nu dash square. So now let us take m square c square common in the left hand side. We get c square minus c square. Similarly, we are going to take minus 2h square nu dash. Why minus 2h square nu dash? Because we are going to simply solve it. When we simply solve it, this is what we are going to get. Finally, what is that? We are going to get m square v square into c square minus v square equals to 2h square into nu minus nu dash m naught c square plus m naught square c power 4 minus 2h square nu dash into 1 minus cos theta. But we know that m equals m naught by root of 1 minus c square, or m square equals m naught square by 1 minus v square c square, or m naught square by c square minus v square by c square. So we are going to get m square into c square minus v square equals to m naught square c square. So substituting the whole value of 8 in 6, we get m naught square c power 4 equals to minus 2h square nu dash into 1 minus cos theta plus 2h into nu minus nu dash m naught square c square plus m naught square c power 4. And m naught square c power 4 on the right hand side, left hand side, they get cancelled out. So we are left with 2h square nu dash into 1 minus cos theta equals to 2h into nu minus nu dash m naught c square. So bring all new nu dash terms to one side and non-new nu dash terms to the other side. We get nu minus nu dash by nu dash equals to h by m naught c square into 1 minus cos theta, or nu by nu dash minus nu dash by nu dash equals to h by m naught c square into 1 minus cos theta, or 1 by nu dash minus 1 by nu equals to h by m naught c square into 1 minus cos theta. Take the right hand side c square c, take the right hand 1 c of the c square to the left hand side, we get c by nu minus c by nu dash equals h by m naught into 1 minus cos theta, which is nothing but lambda dash minus lambda equals to h by m naught into 1 minus cos theta. And this lambda dash minus lambda, we call it as Compton shift. And this change in wavelength does not depend on the wavelength, of course, of the incident photon and nature of the scattering material. It only depends on the photons. So when theta equals to 0, d lambda equals to 0. When theta equals to 90, we get the shift as h by m naught c. So d lambda equals to, when you substitute the values of h, m naught and c, the d lambda we are going to get 0.0243 Armstrongs. When theta equals to 180, we get d lambda equals to 0.048 Armstrong degrees. The change in the wavelength is maximum when it is at 180 degrees. So this is what we call it as a Compton shift, and this Compton shift has given a beautiful example of the wave behaving like a particle. And what is the experimental verification? This is what the experimental verification of a Compton shift is. Anyway, this is out of your syllabus. So with this, let us conclude our topic today here, and we'll continue the next topic of revision tomorrow.